Hello, welcome to my presentation on cloud computing. This presentation is brought to you by Daryl Dawson. Now, based on a recent meeting held with various IT personnel, I would like to discuss on the below. It's called cloud computing as a project that could be implemented in our company. Now, I would like to explain how it would benefit our company, what would be the cost, the process involved, and I would like to ask our Honorable CEO for an approval to go ahead and implement the project. Now, to begin with, I would like to explain to you all a brief idea about what is cloud computing. Now, cloud computing is an internet-based model where we have shared information, various softwares and resources that utilize a third party or a host to save and provide relevant data and produce it when demanded at a very quick span of time. We pay for what we use. Now, cloud how is cloud utilized and what are its risks? The cloud is being used by almost all companies, be it small grocery chains, the huge medical or insurance sectors. They all use it to address few applications like, for example, the CRM, data storage, or even huge database. To name a few companies that provide us with cloud services are like example Google, Apple, Amazon. These people are all providing their big markets in cloud computing services. Now, what are the risks involved? The risks can be categorized into three major forms. The first one is consumer risk, the second one is security risk, and the third one is privacy risk. Now, what is the experience of companies using cloud? Now, in today's world, there are a lot of companies who have started to use cloud. The majority of them falls in the IT and manufacturing sector, whereas the government sectors is now slowly catching up. Even they have started to use cloud services. Now, to give you an example, a few of the companies in the US, like for example, the one of the company in the food and chain industry utilized big data to study weather conditions, which made the company analyze climatical conditions. And based on the climatical conditions, they were able to get what food was required at what particular interval, and they were able to make proper inventories. And this brought in huge profit for the company. Now, what is the advantages and disadvantages of using cloud? Now, the advantages is it's cost efficient. It saves you time. We can have unlimited data. We pay for what we use. Now, we can also have a backup and recovery system in case of there's failures. And with the help of the internet, now the good thing is you can access it from anywhere in the world. And finally, it could be deployed and it could be up and running in just few hours. So you don't have to wait for those waiting time, and that saves a lot of money. Now, what are the disadvantages? The disadvantages, in case of system failures, it can lead to downtime. Now, this downtime can actually lead to high maintenance cost. And the most important disadvantage is data protection. Now, this can be a serious problem just in case if you're transferring from one service provider to another. During the transit, it could either be mishandled or data can even be lost. So that's something serious. And sometimes customers can get in it's called a lock-in period. For example, if you take a contract and you're locked into the contract for quite some time and you're not happy with the services, that could be one disadvantage. Now, to continue, what scope do I personally recommend that we use cloud in our company? Well, let me just go ahead and say we start the project with just a very small investment of $250,000. We could turn this into a huge profit with within a very small span of time. Now, as per my research, which I have done based on this project, we could break even at just 3.2 years with an internal rate of return, which is the IRR, I'm sorry, at just 18%. Now, using cloud-based services, it increases the productivity of the company. Now, we could drive excellent customer service, and we could create a virtual server which we could deploy the business over the cloud, so that makes it quite convenient. Now, also by virtualizing the software, we can run more than one application, so which means that brings in more results, more positive results, and more profits to the company. Now, by having an external cloud computing software, we can also save huge amount of money spent in buying expensive servers, so we don't have to spend money on servers. And also we could eliminate a lot of IT maintenance cost, because when we get IT people, it involves a lot of cost. Now this could be outsourced to external vendors. What is the infrastructure that would be required to go ahead and implement this cloud? Now, we need some basic infrastructure. We need to have some good firewalls, networking hardware, which needs to have routers and switches. Now, most important, we need to have an in-house disaster tool just in case if there's some breakdowns. And we need to have a strong desktop management force with qualified IT technicians. Also, by using some automated alerts, this helps us to reduce manpower around the clock. Now, one of the latest technologies which I would personally recommend using is the IaaS, which is Infrastructure as a Service. Now, this could be easily rented, it's publicly available, it helps us compute storage and networking very easily with less cost involved. We could pay only what we use. So this is one of the best I would personally suggest. And finally, what is the best practice that could be shared using the companies using cloud computing? Now, some of the best practices. First thing, you need to adhere to the guidelines provided by the service providers. Always stick to the guidelines, and we need to have a risk mitigation plan. Employees need to be trained to handle emergencies. Also, we need to keep track of the services provided. If they're up to mark, we need to keep track of this. We need to handle costs accordingly, and only we need to pay for what we use. Sometimes service providers can come up with something which could be, very kind of an extraordinary service, and it may not be required for the company. So that would be an unwanted expense. So we need to use what we actually want. And we finally need to make sure to be successful, we need to have the best of the best team players. By having the best IT resources in-house, we could either train them, or we could have already people on hands-on experience. This would be one of the best practices. Now, moving on, as mentioned earlier, I was fascinated by this technology. That's the reason I've gone ahead and did some extensive research. Now, I just want to show you some technical facts based on the research which I have done. And to begin with, let me start with what is the cost. The cost for this particular project would be just $250,000 with a discount rate of 10%, and the time period will be 6 years. So let me just go ahead and explain some basic information. Now we have the net present value, which is the total cash inflow and the present value. So when we do the calculation on this, the net present value comes to 54,092.15 dollars, which is positive. And the internal rate of return for this project stands at 18%, which is really good. Now moving on, we also have the profitability index, where the profitability index stands at 1.21%. That's a really good percentage. And the payback period, now the good thing about is the investigations have led and proven that the payback period stands at 3.2 years, which is very good. Now, I've also done some sensitivity analysis based on different investment values, and by changing different discount rates or the total investment, we get different values. And to see which one is the best, which would suit our project, would be at 10% discount rate with a investment of $250,000 for 6 years. The net present value stands at 54,000, which is positive. So we would go ahead and use that as our investment. That would be the right investment. Now, finally, I would like to uh, request the CEO of our company and the board of directors that cloud computing is the latest cutting edge technology which could be used. It could be up and running easily, even though there are various challenges, but then the advantages are more handled right. And as discussed earlier, businesses are adapting to this, so we need to catch up. and with just a very low investment, we could go ahead and here we could get huge profits, and we could penetrate in the markets, get more clients, get more benefit, and well, we could actually be the number one insurance provider in the company by having more happy customers. And finally, I have my list of references on this project. So thank you for your time. That brings me to the end of this project.